This is a page from the Calendar of Lost Potential, Chicago, January 2021. During that month, 54 people in Chicago were shot to death, mostly male-identified, mostly identified as black. Gunshot is the way people are murdered here. There's only one other recorded murder, by stabbing. If each of those 54 people had lived to the average Chicagoan's age of 77, the total years of life lost is 2,519. Each bar on this calendar shows the number of years that each person killed might have lived. Over 2,500 years already gone. Think of what we are missing. Poems not written, celebrations not held, degrees not earned, baskets not made, small businesses not opened. Hugs, fights, trips to the grocery store, walks in the park, all not taken. Years of potential life lost.
Story spool. Thread wrapping this spool reference stories and events of November 2020. By November, Amy Coney Barrett, clearly opposed to Roe v. Wade, was confirmed as Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States, and two coat hangers wrap up this event. Pages from the New York Times announcing Joe Biden winner of the presidential race wrap around and around. Strings from an upright bass fiddle remind us of unemployed musicians and artists as a result of the COVID pandemic. Yucca leaves, braided and wrapped, reference First Nation people and the holiday of Thanksgiving. A red leather label and leather shoelaces recall my friend's parents' immigration as cobbler and seamstress from Germany in the late 1940s and the animals raised to serve and clothe us. The machine embroidery 11/20/20 evokes memories of my rural high school and the physical and social fallout from jock culture.
In ancient Northern European culture, human sacrifices to appease the gods and to ensure a fertile season were sometimes buried in peat bogs. When these remains were discovered centuries later, their skins are tan black and hair bleached red by the bog. This bog man is a sacrifice, not of a living human, but of our future selves. For plenitude of consumer goods and capitalism in the now, we sacrifice the future, wreaking havoc on our environment with no care for what the long-term effects will be for humanity.
Our oceans are one of the last vestiges of true wilderness left on our planet, yet more and more each year, the Earth's precious seas and their valuable ecosystems are at risk of permanently changing. As an artist, there is difficulty in portraying the monumentalism of not only the ocean itself, but also its cry for help. I made this expressive, loosely constructed albatross form as a way to embody the imminent loss of the oceans of the past, rather than graphically depict the albatross with a stomach full of plastic or after an oil spill. I chose a gesture that instead resembles mourning. The figure, too, not outstretched to a magnificent wingspan, but closed, seated, and lonely, as if she had already given up. My hope is that we don't ever give up. My hope is that we can see each individual life that is dependent on the ocean for survival as a reflection of our own.
Top 4, leap for words. In these turbulent times, leap for words beckons us to express ourselves with positive and productive words when sharing with and listening to those with differing beliefs and lifestyles. For it is the threads of affinity and empathy that will mend the torn fabric of our beloved and diverse society.
More about conflict than conflict resolution, and ultimately about peace through conflict. This piece is first and foremost meant to be interacted with. Spin the petal-like discs, read the words to yourself or out loud. These few phrases that resonate with me, just one person, are a jumping-off point for a tall tower of possible phrases and feelings that may be meaningful to you. Please participate by adding to this list of words of conflict expletives, languages other than English, pictograms, and rebuses welcome.
This piece aims to make visual the effect of indigenous erasure in how tribal people are impacted by events both global and local. The KN95 mask is to represent how COVID more greatly affected tribal nations in both the US and globally. The red handprint on the mask is a symbol that rose from traditional Plains tribal paints to raise awareness of the significantly high proportion of murdered and missing Indigenous women, also known as the MMIW movement. This is due in no small part to the intersection of racism, misogyny, and class. The installation of gas pipelines through the reservation lands, which result in environmental damage to the land itself, also puts women who live there at a higher risk of trafficking, assault, rape, and murder. Both corporations as well as traffickers rely on the complexities of the U.S. legal system in relation to indigenous lands to hide and push off responsibility for these crimes. The red eyes, with tears, represent rage, frustration, and sadness of the indigenous peoples, as well as their struggles and often too ignored or shrugged off by others as something that happened long ago and not something ongoing.
Housing is a human right, and only a few years ago, the American dream featured a house with a white picket fence. But as our country navigated multiple recessions and corporate greed discovered real estate investment, the ability for the average U.S. household to buy a home floated up and out of reach. Real estate investment trusts began gobbling up single-family homes, as well as profit-generating rental properties, flipping them in order to raise rents and drive up sales. In fact, most REITs simply shuffle investments around amongst themselves, neatly squeezing out families looking to put down roots, sometimes on the street they grew up on. With the rise of companies like Vrbo and Airbnb, more and more affordable homes are taken off the market, standing empty, sometimes for months at a time, while millions of unhoused people huddle on the streets or in their cars.
The Indian reservation system established tracts of land called reservations for native people to live on as white settlers took over their lands. And herein lies the meaning of this piece. One could liken a reservation to be a prison camp, a place of containment, where a specific group of people are all kept in one space and under the control of another people. They do not own the land. They are kept there under the control of the government that created these places and allows them to be there. Their rights are far from equal to other citizens of the country.